What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, alongside my co-host.
Mikey Fever.
And this is a New Yorker's perspective. We have Eric. How do I say your last name?
Cologne.
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 Cologne. All right. Today, Mikey, he's got some two teeth pulled. So he's a little off today. We've been having some some issues, man, for the past couple of weeks, bro.
Yeah, man.
Man, I was sick. All kinds of stuff, man.
When it
Mike,
rains, it pours.
huh?
When it rains, it pours, man.
When it rains, it pours, man. It's been a tough week, and it's just ironically, we had an earthquake today, and then now it's a solar eclipse Monday. I think that's so weird.
My car doing the Macarena while I go into the dentist. I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, who got the light? Who got the sound system? I'm like, what the?
So now we have the brother Eric Cologne on today. Eric Cologne. First off, before we go into the questions, I want you to give a brief, introduction of who you are, where you're from, and how did you get into Palo Mayombe?
Palo. Let's go. Oh, hold on. Before we go further, we got to greet him respectfully. Salam alaikum.
Malaikum salam.
That's it. Peace.
Oh, you're Muslim? You Muslim, brother?
No, you know what's interesting? I'm
That's
not Muslim. That's more of a salute. It's not real. It's has its Arabic origins, but we use it as a sign of respect. So it kind of means almost the same thing as Islamic understanding of like peace be with you, or hey, how you doing? Or blessings to you and stuff like that. So in the house that I belong to in Palo, we use the word salamalongo, which kind of means what is nature. And then we answer back with malongo and timayaya, which means uh, mother is the heart of nature. So pretty much it means mother nature. So it's a very earthbound religion.
That's peace.
Wow. That's something I did not know.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I was raised for about maybe 5.5 years in Williamsburg, right off of Metropolitan Avenue between Manhattan and Leonard, just before you get to the bridge and just before you get to the south side. And then when my mom passed away, we moved to Bushwick. So I grew up on Troutman Street between Bushwick Avenue and Myrtle, and I stood there till about 2008. And then I moved to California for about 12 years. And then I came back to the East Coast. Now I live in Pennsylvania.
That's peace.
My start in the religion, a lot of people have their different stories. My start in the religion was looking for health, because I had went to a party, uh, kind of like a spiritual gathering for Risha, and I got sick. I got real sick. And they were planning on taking my leg. My leg was as black as this shirt that I have on. And so I met a priest. I knew a couple of friends because I was already drenched in spirituality. I did a lot of spiritism, Kardecian spiritism, and work in mediumship. And that was my introduction to the religion, or to the practice, from saving my life. So yeah, that was pretty much my introduction into this.
And
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Something he said, Kardecian isn't that those with like Alan Kardec, for the listeners, so them to know the work of Alan
Yeah,
Kardec.
yeah. The works of Allan Kardec, and um, Allan Kardec wasn't a medium. He was more like a scientist and a kind of like a philosopher and a teacher in France during the Victorian age. and he wrote a set rule of books based off of the Christian gospel and based off of esoteric understandings, sitting down with mediums and interviewing them as they were mounted, you know. And those books got expanded from Spain and from France into the Caribbean islands during the times of, when we're talking about all the new world stuff going on and the revolutions that were going on and about. And those books were taken in, and you already have Creole people that already are practicing a form of spirituality with their ancestral veneration.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's
we
he's gonna
adopt
connect.
books and we added flavors.
Mm.
Did he
Nah,
got
he's
he got
connecting.
disconnected?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
coming in.
okay.
Make
Oh,
continue.
okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, and that's that, and so my family was very rooted in deck spiritism, which was interesting too, because like I had told you off camera, my
I'm listening.
Doña Rafaela, who was Haitian, and she moved from Haiti and she had her spiritual center in Puerto Rico in San Juan during the 1920s and 30s, and they learned from her, and we worked that type of spiritism. And I was born in 71, so I never got to meet these people, but I got to get taught by the teachers that were taught by them and so forth, my aunt. So it was very family rooted, the spiritism.
I notice you call it spiritism. Why do you call it that?
Can you repeat that, Ron? What was that?
I notice you call it spiritism. Why do
Mhm.
you call it spiritism?
Because it embarks talking with the spirits, right? Mostly back in those days. Nowadays they have a little bit more of a different flavor. But back in those days, it was communication with the dead. So, say, God forbid, you had an uncle, or aunt, a sister, a brother who passed on, um, we would do to find out information from them about how we would live a better life here, that they live in what we call the land of truth, right? So
Mm.
we would conjure them up, kind of, through through spiritual practicality and doing seances and calling them down, and though that's how you develop into a medium. There's a lot of people have that natural born gift, call it a sixth sense or whatever.
That's
Now,
peace.
I want to say this. I'm a big skeptic on every. I question everything. That's
And you
just my
should.
nature. That's my nature. That's my personality. So, like, I've never seen any kind of um different realms, dimensions, uh energies, if you will. um However, I'm open-minded, and if someone can show and prove these things, then I would
Mhm.
be more of a person of, you know a, I would say, believer, so to speak. So I know you can't show me anything right now. However, do
Mhm.
you have any experiences of mi- I'm gonna say this though. I went to a I forgot the name of what it's called, but it's like a Santeria or Santeros, like some kind of like celebration. And
A drumming.
yeah, it was drumming. Yeah, it was drumming.
Yeah. Okay.
And this one guy, he was dancing, and he's drinking, spitting alcohol, and then
Mhm.
he was just started like hollering and everything like that, and he bit the head of a chicken off like this, and blood was squirting everywhere. He's like, he was bloodied up and everything like that. So I don't know what that was. I know um that sometimes, like when I was younger, especially, I would listen to certain music and it would get me so riled up to where, I kind of like lost control a little bit. So I don't know if it was the power of the music. I don't know.
It was tapping the chakras, the power of the music. You know.
So what would that experience? Can you describe what I've experienced with that? What that is?
I think, you know, again, like everyone has spiritual capabilities and everyone has mediumistic views. Um, One of the major factors is prophetic dreaming, right? You could dream about something and have what they would consider a déjà vu, you know, and then now, you know, um, one of the great teachers from hip hop, right? KRS-One broke it down very similar, right? You know, you see the sign in back of you, right? The New Yorker's perspective, right? Now he pulled an exercise, and it was interesting, right? If you look at that sign, right, and you close your mouth and you don't say, but you think New Yorker's perspective, right? What is that voice that tells you that you're reading New Yorker's perspective?
We
Yo,
just did this exercise on the show last week.
yo, he did. Yo, that's crazy though.
Oh,
Did you watch the show, brother Eric? Did you watch the show?
No, I don't watch. I don't watch shows.
it's crazy.
I've been busy working and seeing spirituality and doing stuff for my godchildren, so I have not been on anything.
It's the
I have
frequency
not
we
been
on.
on
I'm
anything.
telling you, it's the frequency we
That's
on.
crazy. Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't peep the show or anything. I haven't. You know, when Mike told me, I was pretty much busy around doing ceremonies and things like that. You know, and but again, you know, it could be coincidence. Like, you know, there's also spirituality behind do that when you say things like that. Like, I don't believe. That's a fair assessment, because guess what? Even believers are skeptics, because we have a saying that St. Thomas Aquinas, right, one of Jesus's followers, you know, had to see the physical hole in his hands to say, I believe in Jesus, right?
True
And
indeed.
he was one of the most major skeptics, you know. And so in Palo, we say, Santo Tomás, yo tengo que ver para creer. I have to see it to believe it, right? And seeing things as manifestations, you know, it's very hard. And one of the things that happens, and I'll share a little bit without getting too deep and not getting too criticized, because, you know, people always say that you should never use your own experience to prove points, right? But what better else than a learning perspective, right? When my mom passed away, when my mom was murdered in New York.
Oh,
So
sorry to hear that. Wow.
no, it's
Sorry about
okay.
that, bro.
It's all right, brother. 1978, things happen. You know what I mean? We're talking about a time when New York was New York. You know, not this New York that we talking about. We're talking about New York, New York. You know, and I remember as a child telling my father that my mom had passed away, because I was literally looking in front of a mirror, being a kid. I was like 6, 7 years old, and I saw this formation. Right, your mom passed away, and I was like, I was freaking out, freaked out about that. I told my dad. My dad was like, "Ah, stop it! You're just, you know, that's your imagination and stuff like that." And then 3 days later, we had detectives knocking on our door with pictures of my mom's body and everything. And you know, then about 6 months later, was a mother wanting to take me with her to the other side, and so
Say word. What?
me to they took me into my family's work area, and they had to work that spirit, because my mom was that strong a character that it would refuse to leave the earth, you know what I mean? And move on to another plane. So when I talk about perspectives and how people feel about their skepticism, I always say champion your skepticism, because when you get that person that is true and indeed, you're going to be like, wow, you're going to be blown away. You know what I mean? And I don't claim to
Exactly.
know it all, but I know that everyone in their life has had some type of experience that has been either a spiritual awakening or some type of ESP,
Paranormal.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
something paranormal, something that you just can't explain.
That's true. It's true. So I have a question for you, brother Eric, and again, much respect to you and your family, your mother,
Mhm.
Oh,
and
thank you. I
you're a
appreciate that.
strong brother. Um, I'd like to ask you, what is, for the listeners, again, for educational purposes, what is the origin of
Mhm.
Palo Mayombe?
All right, so Palo Mayombe becomes a new world religion in an old world understanding. So, what I mean by that, the central point of Palo Mayombe comes from Central Africa. Okay, the understanding of Palo, because they start what's called Nkisi worship, right? And so the Bantu people, the different Bantu tribes that were kind of converged together, they practiced a similar form of spirituality, which had to do with Nkisi, where it had to do with it's in nature and elemental spirits, spirits of the ancestors, which are called Bakulu, right? The ancestral spirits. And when they come from Africa, you know, people think that they just landed somewhere, and they were transported all over the place. The first transport was Brazil. That's why you have a high concentration of Congo people in Brazil, right? Little Bahia, they call it Little Africa. When those people get to those ports and they start, unfortunately, selling them as property to the different groups, the British, you know, um, Spain, Portuguese, even the Arabs, they had their hands in that, right? Because it was commodity, it was money. Um, First slaves go to Haiti, right? Present day Hispaniola, Santo Domingo, Cuba in 1509. So those first Africans come to Cuba in 1509, but the Bantus were so headstrong and so powerful in their belief and in even being suppressed. There was no suppression for them. They left. They create. There was always wars in the takeovers. They were always fighting, and they took off to the mountains. Worship, understanding of the knowledge of land and herbs and everything like that. They meet with the Arawaks, right? They meet with the Tainos that were there, that were already embedded, because a lot of people think that when Columbus came, and they started bringing the Spanish Armageddon, the Spanish brigades, and
The
they killed
conquistador.
off all the Indians. These people ran too. I mean, those people escaped. It took about almost 30 years, 30 or 40 years, with the type of technology that the Europeans had, to go up into the mountains and even cut trees down at a pace of 30 years. That took a long time for them to get up in those mountains, right? And those Africans integrated their understanding of their practice with the intermarriage of the Arawak people. And that's how Mayombe, or Mayombe, or what we call Enkisi Malongo, starts embedding itself into a culture, right? And it starts becoming part of that culture. Of course, later on, you have other influences that come, right? the European influence eventually, and other subgroups that came, looking for spirituality. But for the first 300 years, it was just this understanding of African and native understanding together that created and formulated Palo Mayombe.
That's peace right there. And for listeners, what isn't it, as you said, in Kisi?
And Nkisi. And Nkisi and Nkisi is formulated by animals, by mostly the dirt in the land,
Mm-hmm.
and certain animals that were kind of like, they had stories for them that had certain strength and certain potentiality. So they would build these Nkisis to create a potentiality for the community to defend themselves against their oppressors spiritually. You know,
Gotcha.
some Nkisis were made for invisibility, so to stay away from the mayoras, from the actual overseers that were going to look for them. Some Nkisis were for health. Some Nkisis were to worship the community for the Bakulu, to remember the ancestors, you know. So there were different formulations of these spiritual icons, or these spiritual strengths, so that you can create a focal point to pray to your ancestors.
Got you. That's respected. Any questions, Ron?
I'm just like just listening, I just think about my own bloodline when mention like the Arawaks and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
my mom's side of the family having Puerto Rican and Saint Thomas Saint Croix roots,
Mm-hmm.
and you know I just take it back to this DNA test I got where it said a lot of Taino in my or Arawak or indigenous in my from the Caribbean in my
Mhm.
bloodline, and I grew up with voodoo, if you will, in my family. Like it was always like spoken about around.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no, and it makes sense, but I think everyone that has some type of Caribbean root, and especially if their root is embedded from Africa, from Africa, and this intermarriage of the people that were native to that land,
Yeah,
it's it's just common sense. Anyone that would say that that never happened would kind of be lying to us, right? Because
a
it's part of
disservice.
our culture. It's part of our culture because um, the the Indian perspective, well, not the Indian perspective, but the native perspective was that they had giant canoes and they would travel from Haiti to Puerto Rico to Cuba to Trinidad to St. Croix to St. Dominique, even as far as the point of Florida, and
Mm.
that's a stretch of ocean. To say
Exactly.
these people didn't move around, they island hopped. You know, you still have major pockets of Arawak people even in Honduras today. They're called Garifuna, right?
Mm.
And the Garifunas are Arawakan with African roots. They still speak Taino. There's people in
Wow.
Jamaica that I know. I know this brother in Jamaica that has a what is called Lukuyanyo Yameke or Yameyeke, something like that.
Mm.
And they're Taino rooted, Jamaican, but they're Taino rooted and also African rooted.
That's another thing, I'm just like just taking it all in thinking,
Yeah.
and
That's how I am right now too, bro.
because
It's just
like
like,
even on my father's side, his father had Jamaican roots. So that's why like when I this like that DNA test kind of opened my eyes. It's like I don't know. It's just like a lot of Caribbean in my blood
Yeah. And it, and the thing is that if you strip away all the nationalities, right? If you take away, if you take away Haiti, you take away just the names, forget about the labels, because what's national pride and ethnicity, they're two different concepts, right? You
Say it
look at,
again. Say it
you know,
again.
yeah,
Say
you
it
look at it,
again.
and that's fine. I'm very white, right? I'm
Mhm.
very I'm very white, but my father was just as dark as you guys. You know what I mean? Just very. My mom was very dark, so you look at that and you go, man, well, where did I fit in that? Where did I fit in? And the reality, it's in your blood. It's in your blood. It doesn't matter the color, the creed, you know, it's there. It's there. And when that type of calling calls you, you feel it, you know? When
Mhm.
when you're rooted into a spirituality that
Yeah.
calls you, it doesn't matter what changes. Hey baby, my
Mhm.
wife. She's over there eating now.
That's big.
Um, you know, um, you know it calls you. It doesn't matter. The only thing that we can't get caught up in is in fanaticism. There's a reality about being spiritual, and then there's a true reality about being fanatic. When
You
you
find
get
them on
these,
YouTube.
yeah, you find them all over. We have to kind of draw that line between fanaticism, what is real, what is not, who is who, and just step back. You know what I mean? And just let crazy be crazy. Let
There's a
crazy
lot.
be crazy.
Eric, I know. We have questions. We're not really following because we're just letting you, as Ron said,
Yeah,
we let
yeah.
you flow. We let you flow because you know what I'm saying, just letting you unpack, let us know
No,
what's going on.
definitely no.
Um,
But you can get with the questions, brother.
the question I like to know: how do you feel about these online gurus, though? Like, because there's a lot of people that you selling these. They selling these Palo pots online. You got people in the voodoo communities do initiations over Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No, it's Ron. It's funny, bro. You got to see it. People,
yeah,
they're selling people these Palo pots. If I have like 3 chicken bones in there and a Popeyes biscuit, they talking about, yeah, you've been initiated. And then you got people talking about voodoo stuff online. Yeah, I'm gonna send you this and
yeah.
Santeria.
Look,
And,
look. I'm gonna tell you something. There's a
mhm,
necessity. There's a
mhm,
necessity, right?
yeah,
Right now, I know Ron works because he called me. He was like, "Yo, I'm just coming out of work. I'm gonna send you
yeah,
the link." Right?
yeah,
Yesterday we were talking. You were
yeah,
working. I work a 9 to 5, which is 8 to 4.
yeah,
We all have jobs, right?
exactly.
But there is a necessity of people out there that do this to make money.
Yeah,
And this has never been new. This is not a new nuance. It's just the problem here is that we have the internet. The internet connects people. And when it connects people, if there's people in necessity who really need, they're going to believe in the person, and the person's going to tell them, oh, give me $10,000 and I'll mail you a pot and I'll put the incantations in and I'll give it a name, and then they mail them, and then the next thing you know it's just an empty box. You know, there was a guy in Florida, a white guy. I forgot his name. Oh, Phil Nymark. Phil Nymark. He was initiated. He was initiated and a true priest, but he started doing mail order orishas. He was feeding a legba, and then he would mail it to the person, right? Then when the person get the legba, it had like a big giant crystal on its head and some weird stuff, and you're like, that's not part of our corpus. And then he started promoting bloodless sacrifices, like he was squishing grapes on stuff. And again, if you're gonna follow a corpus, and again, I'm not promoting animal cruelty, and I'm not saying for people to understand our culture, you have to be embedded in the culture. That's like me going to Mikey's house, right? And they have a lavatet, or they do something in Haitian voodoo, and I come there and I'm like, oh, No. I got to step back and respect what's going on, right? Because the culture is the culture. You come to my house, I'm an Orisha priest. We're going to have drummings. There may be feedings. Who knows? Somebody might run around with a chicken in their hand. We don't know. Things happen, you know,
That's
but
true.
you have to be stuck in a reality that we follow a corpus. And so what happens is that these gurus, they get these informations on books, they get these informations on on voodoo Google and Palo Google and Wikipedia. Before, you could change the information and it would
Yeah.
use it as original information. So a lot of people got messed up because of that. I think Wikipedia doesn't do that, doesn't allow it anymore. But
Mm-mm.
before, you could go on Wikipedia and change everything around to your liking and to your benefit. So
People are doing it. Yep.
the problem here is not the online gurus. The problem here is the people who are not really that what the intention and commitment is, right? Is
Mhm.
like, you got to vet people. And I'm not talking about vetting them, if they're criminal or they got a rap sheet, because the people go through things and things happen, right? We're
Mhm.
talking about spiritually. What is their
Yes.
track record? who can talk to who can talk for them word of mouth. You know what I mean? It's like going in a cipher and you hear some bum guy trying to rap and throw some lyrics, and then he goes and he tries to be the best rapper in the world, and you go, no, this guy's crap. We saw him in a cipher before, and that spreads. you know
Yeah.
the, New York has the capability of destroying someone without having to go online or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does.
And so this is the things we have to do. I think, going back to the guru online stuff, is that we have to kind of say, you know what, we need to speak out about it, especially when things are being done wrong. You know.
All right. That's true. So like how does Palo Mayombe differs from other African diaspora spiritual systems as far as Santeria and Voodoo?
Okay. There's similarities, and
Hmm.
then there are total different separate understandings, right? The difference between Palo Mayombe, it's more embedded in, and I don't want to say necromancy because that just sounds dark, right?
Mhm.
But it's in elevating the ancestral understanding of spirituality, right? So in Palo and in Bantu philosophy, they believe that when a person passes away, you don't necessarily die, right? They say that the corporal spirit turns into three parts. Your higher self goes up into the astral plane, into the universe, right? And
Hmm.
becomes part of what's called star matter. And then there's another part that stays closer to the body. And then there's another part of the soul that wanders a little bit until the community starts uplifting him with prayers and things of
Mm.
that nature. And so what happens is that Palo is an earth-based religion that is for betterment, is for health. I think Palo has gotten a bad rap about people wanting to just think that we're hitmen for hire because they
Yeah.
hear all the bad stuff. Oh, you go to that palero and he could bury you in 3 days. I've been a palero for almost 23 years and I still haven't seen that. I've seen months. I've seen 21 days, maybe 30 days, a dude, mess with the wrong person and something happened. But everything has a justification, right?
Yeah.
We we live in a world where people always talk about karma, but I give this example all the time. How does karma work when a person, God forbid, is a pedophile or been raping kids in his own family? His family hasn't outed him. He's 90 plus years old. He
Mm.
dies a full death. He dies old with money, and no one said anything. Where did karma play into that factor? Right? Whereas in Palo, we talk about cause and effect. What you do in this earth, you're going to get it back. It's like planting a seed and
Yeah.
adding water to it, right? That's the cause. You're causing an effect to that seed to break out and give roots. And that roots is the effect. And so life is secular, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's cyclical, right? It's a cycle. So if I do something bad, eventually it's going to come back to me. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter how good I am as a person. It's just the law of it's just Murphy's law, man. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
So, yeah.
And so if you're a good person, and I'm not talking about a good person as an angel, I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking a good person that, yeah, you've taken care of your family, you've done the best that you can in your life. You're gonna live a good life and you're gonna have a good death, you know, and your death is going to be honored by people because they say the absolute death is when people don't mention your name no more. That's when
Mm.
you absolutely die. And so that's why we venerate our ancestors so that they don't die for us.
Got
In Orisha, you have the Moyuba, where you pray to your ancestors and you mention all the people that have died that were either family of blood or what we call rock family. In Palo, is the same thing.
mm.
Palo, we mention our ancestors. We mention those people that we knew that were paleros, that were good people, and maybe not so good people, but
Mm.
they were part of this culture and we remember them to keep their spirit alive.
I got you. That's real right there. That's real. Any question, Ron? Nice.
Man, I'm just
Your mind, I know it hit you, it threw you. That's why I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, what the? Eric came with the energy and it's
and then you know what it is? It's just the energy too, though. The energy.
yeah, yeah. It's
I don't
very
know. It's a Friday. I don't know what's
that,
going
that
on.
wise, the wise tribal chief energy. We call Eric the tribal chief.
The house shook, man. The house shook over here.
Oh, you felt it up there too?
Yeah, it came to Pennsylvania. Yeah. My wife was sitting down eating breakfast and the house shook. And I lived in California, so I remember tremors like that, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel it because I was in the office. But she said she felt it, and it was like 2.8 over here. But over there by Jersey and by New York, it was almost 4.0. It was
Mhm.
3.8 over here. Oh, look at that.
So
Real
Yeah.
quick, I want to go into what are the core beliefs of Palo Mayombe?
The core beliefs of Palo Mayombe:
mm,
be a good son, be a good father,
mm,
be a good husband, be a good person. The core beliefs of Palo Mayombe is that we say that we are children of Mpemba, right? Children of white or children of the light, which Mpemba can mean white and it can also mean the candle that lights the way because the
mm,
candle is representative of spirituality that formulates from every person. We're made of our bodies are made of electricity, right? And so we believe that every person that sheds this physical form goes back into star matter. And it makes sense because the whole ashes to ashes, dust to dust thing,
mm,
um, if you take our bodies and break it down, we have every mineral that is formulated on the earth and in the universe. Every
mm.
cell, every cell that we have, and every anything that's in the that chemistry chart, that table, we have
Yeah,
all those elements and then some. you know
yes, we
our
do.
bodies are made of 75% water. The earth is made of 75% water and 25% land. So we have 25% solid mass and 75% water. What does that tell you? That we are part of this world. We're part of this spirituality, you know,
Mhm.
and we are, to say it, we are the masters of our own universe.
That's peace. That's true. That's true. That is so true, brother. That is so true. Just listening. I like to ask another question: is
Sure.
how does Palo Mayombe intersect with Catholicism, particularly in Cuba?
Okay. Um, again,
that I'm claim my energy.
definitely go for it. Go for it. You know, Catholicism is an interesting part of Palo because what happened or what happens is that the adaptation of slavery,
Mm-hmm.
you were constricted to practice certain things, and there was already a lot of Congos that were already baptized when they came with Paul or with what's that explorer? I want to say Paulo Cow. He was Portuguese, you know,
Okay.
with Saint Augustine and Angola and
Mhm.
and
I remember.
the whole king that was there that converted into Catholicism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they saw them hold the Roman cross, they thought it was the Congo cross. But the Congo cross is more representative of the 90-degree Greek cross, which looks like a target. So you
Yeah.
have 90 degrees in each side, it's 360 degrees, which
Mm-hmm.
represents, what we call
The access of
in the Congo cosmogram,
yeah.
the Yowa cross. And so when they get to Cuba, they realize that they could circumvent their religion by hiding them behind Catholic saints,
Ah,
you know? And so a lot of the syncretic understanding of Catholicism in Palo comes from the understanding that if you had St. Barbara and you had Insasi, right, the the lower Congo god of Angola, which talks about fire and lightning, and then you hear the story about how St. Barbara, when she got her head cut off by her father, a lightning bolt came and killed him, right? Because it was a divine intervention between God and everything. You get the correlations of those stories, right? And that's where
Mm,
syncretism gets brought into the mix, you
got
know?
you. The same thing in Haitian voodoo too with Angelique Donto, her tongue is like,
Mhm.
got cut out. But they also some parts I see they do substitute Saint Barbara for her in certain
Yeah.
areas. So,
Mhm.
so it
Yeah. Actually, it's the Virgin Mary of Chetswa. You
yeah.
know, here in PA, they do a big migration of Haitian people that go to the
Oh,
church
I go there.
for that Thursday,
Yeah.
and they do the grotto and
Germantown.
they ring the bell and everything. I've
Yeah.
been there. I've been
In
there.
the
I've
graveyard,
done it.
right?
Yeah,
The church
yeah,
inside the grave. Yo, it's
yeah,
I'm bringing you, Ron. We're going, Ron. We're gonna go,
yeah.
brother.
That'll be an experience for him. He'll love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we gotta bring you.
He'll love it. And then they have the mass in patois and everything.
oh
You
wow.
know, yeah.
Wow, that would be crazy. I would love that, man.
That
I
happens in
always
sometime in September, I think.
yeah, they
August,
usually.
September. Yeah.
I usually always for me personally, I
Mhm.
always say Haitian voodoo and Palo to me are similar. I always find
Mhm.
like in certain degrees like the um the fieriness of both because both are very hot.
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying. Even down to the
Yeah.
music, the rhythmatic, the music. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. No, they're definitely brothers at arms because you have three positions in voodoo that
Mhm.
you have Rada, you have Gede, right? And then you have
Right.
Petwa.
Yeah,
And the
Congo.
Petwa are the Congos, you
Mm-hmm.
know. They say Rada is to give worship to, and then the Petro spirits are the ones you work with, you
Yeah.
know. And those are pretty much Congo spirits. They're
I,
Congo.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Now I'm not a believer in spirits because I never really. I'm gonna say I've seen something before, but I think it's just more my eyes. Like that's how I look at it, right? So
It's
like
okay.
Mhm.
like all right, my sister she passed on some years back, and I was in my grandparents' basement, and I'm sleeping, and then I just felt something over me, like a person was over me, and I'm like, what the hell? I open up my eyes, and I see like this image, like it was like a human being over me,
So like silhouette.
like like a silhouette, and I'm like, I'm looking, and even back then I wasn't thinking like spirits and nothing like that. So I'm like, yo, what the hell? So I got up, the silhouette didn't move, and then I kept looking, and I turned the light on. There was nobody there though. So it's like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll say that I'm a skeptic on spirits and all of that. I don't really believe they exist. However, I'm open if someone could show and prove. So I want to know, how do practitioners of Palo Mayombe communicate with spirits?
Well, they communicate pretty much. The number one communication system is possession. Possession. The total possession of spirituality that comes from those types of energies. And those energies, they're not like spirits that are like what Mike was saying, they're hot, right? So those spirits come down and they do supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they'll eat fire. And I'm not talking about, fire catching. I'm talking about chew on something while it's still burning and eating it.
Yeah. A piece of
Nothing
coal.
Yeah, nothing happening to the person.
Yeah.
The person eating glass. There's a lot of requisites of, and people who say, "Oh my God, no, that's
Oh wait,
demonic," and
brother, I
things like
think I
that.
saw that. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
The dude was eating glass too, yeah, at that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yo,
a
what's up with that? Like,
there's a so
Yeah.
you've seen manifestations of spirituality and still being a skeptic is always good because you always got charlatans out there. You know what I mean? And so it's always good to be a skeptic. Never believe what your eyes are seeing because your eyes could deceive you, you know, but know what they say in communication. There's a difference, right? Because the spirit could jump from here to across the room, right? In one leap, in one leg, jump 3 rooms down in one leg. And you can say, oh, well, maybe that person is athletic, right? But when that person comes up to you and says, hey, Ron, do you remember this time in New York City when da, and they start connecting the dots to the point that you start like, dude, did this dude have a camera when I was there? He
Yeah.
saw everything, can mention smells, can mention times, dates, uh, a cut on your foot, something that you felt, those what um we call it evidencia or veridic understanding of what a person is communicating to you. That's how you know a true possession is a true mount. And the person is telling you stuff that no one knows about, you know, that no one knows about you. Now, there's two other forms, right? There's a form, there's divination forms that you know that the spirit is talking to you as well. And
Yeah.
there's many types of divination forms, from using a plate to just sitting there with a candle and a glass of water. um
Yeah.
some people do animal bones. They'll cast animal bones. They'll cast chamalongos, which are coconut rinds that are cut
I
in
seen
certain.
those before. I seen
Yeah,
those.
that's pretty popular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's also one that there's a spirit horn with a glass on it, and the person will put it to their head and start talking to you based off of that. So there are many forms of possession, and there's many forms of the spirit talking to you, and how you communicate with that. Now, for skeptics, it's interesting because when you get a reading or a person is truly in tuned, you'll be like, damn, because I've seen people that are super in tune, and you'll be like, yo, that person must have been living in my house to
Yeah.
tell me this, that, and the third. and it happens, you know.
So how does one go about wanting to be initiated into Palo Mayombe?
You know, it's funny because I always hear that about wanting to be initiated. And so again, the intention, right?
Mm,
What is the intention of a person wanting to get initiated, right?
yeah.
Are they having issues with their family? Are they having issues with their health?
Mm,
Um, or they're just doing it because it's like this new trend, right? I always
mm,
tell people go to a priest and get read and truly get read, right? Find
exactly.
out find out what is it in your path, right? And if it's in your path, then start studying it. Study the people around you. Get to know them, right? And
Mm,
The
then
people around me, meaning like the people that I know.
people that you know, people or people that you say that you go get a reading right now. Ron decides, oh, I'm gonna go to 180th and Third Ave. I'm not gonna go do score. And I say that because my godfather lived on 180th and Third Ave, right in the
mm,
project, right? And I would go over there and do my work with him, right? But let's say you got somebody similar to that, right? You
mm,
knock on the door, the dude comes in, gives you a reading, and everything that he says is so on point that you're like, wow, I want to know how he does that. Now, mind you, you might not have that same gift. That's why you're going for the reading, right? Can you develop it? Yes. So now your intention is developing it. What is your commitment? And what are you going to sacrifice to get to that level that that elder has gotten to? Because let me tell you something. In 2002 and 2003, when I was running around like my first years in Palo, I didn't have a car. You know, I was a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. What car? Car for what? I live in Brooklyn. I'm gonna jump on a train and come down. I had to go get animals, all right? And car service wouldn't take you because they'd be like, "Why are you bringing these birds and these and this ram?" I would have to jump on a train, on the J train, come down all the way to 100, almost close to Hunts Point, transfer from there, Southern Boulevard to Third Avenue, get on a Third Avenue bus, and stop at 170th right there, get off, and walk with two boxes of animals to have to go up into a project now to feed this stuff. The intention, the commitment, and your sacrifice. What is it that you're willing to sacrifice? Because that's dedication. Some people don't have that dedication. In
that's a
this day and
fact.
age, they don't. They don't, you know?
That's
You
real
know,
right
so,
there, man.
and
You
so
went through it.
yeah, and so for someone to say, how am I what is the possibility of being a priest in Palo or even being a worshiper in Palo? Intention and commitment. The sacrifice is going to come because that's just part of the role, but intention and commitment.
Okay. Okay.
So what is the significance, the main reason for one to have a cauldron?
Um, the significance is that we have a mirror image, right? And we
Mm,
talk about this a lot.
mm,
When our physical body comes out of the womb and the sun hits us for the first time, and I'm not talking about light, I'm talking about the actual physical sun. That
yes.
sun casts our shadow, and we're born with our shadow that follows us to the rest of our days. So, a gangulero or a palero, right? A
Mm,
priest of Palo formulates this understanding of working his shadow self in spirit form. And so the
mm.
nganga, that
That's the
metal
term I
cauldron,
use, Ngaga, yeah.
yeah, the nganga represents your shadow self. So say like your physical self is left-handed,
Mm,
in your shadow self will be right-handed. Everything is in reverse. And it's just learning how to become one with the universe. Because when we do our
Synergize.
ceremonies, we go to a foot of a tree, what's called an encunia. And there are many encunias. Oak, which is called Palo Ramon, is an encunia of power. The ceiba tree, Mama Ngundu, is a place of power. The sleeping willow tree, right? You see the willow trees and stuff like that. They're called hagway. Those have power. Those have energies. The laurel bush is a place of power, and so all these power positions um, formulate that strength for that nganga to build. Because what an nganga represents is a universe within a universe. So it's the macrocosm of the universe, of your universe, right? And so it's kind of like freaky because if you think about how universes are, right, and you look at Marvel and all that stuff, I think they got all that understanding from African understanding, because the reality is that everyone lives in a universe. We
Exactly.
live, we our sole purpose is to figure out what is our place within this world. So we have to create a world within a world.
You know what's so beautiful with all that you're saying?
Hmm.
With all these spiritual practices, you find our history in there. It tied you all back. It's all about ancestral, connecting to ancestrals, bringing you back into that core. And as you mentioned, the microcosm in the macrocosm, that's really a macrocosm, like it's so world within worlds, like it just keeps, it's infinite basically.
Yeah, it's infinite. It's infinite. That's why we say Congo nunca muere. The Congo doesn't die. The person, the corporal person, doesn't die. Your body, your physical being, of course, it shuts down, but your
Mhm.
spirit keeps moving. And that's proven by science. I don't have
Mm.
to, you don't have to be a skeptic for that, Ron. That's proven by science. You can look at studies and studies and studies, and they say that there is a definite separation of the corporal body and the spirit,
Yeah.
because there's energy that just keeps flowing and flowing and moving, you know?
I think Ron's
I,
ready to be
I
a
would have to.
Polaroid.
I would have to research that. I would have to research.
You should.
I think Ron ready to be a Polaro right now. Ron about to be like, that's it.
Listen, you listen. I've always been interested in it since a kid. You know,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
my family they experimented with it, and you know, from what the way they tell it, you know, the outcome wasn't good. And you know what, I'm gonna speak candidly right now about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so um, my parents, I mean not my parents, one of my parents,
Mhm.
my mom, her sisters, and her brother, they did a séance,
Mhm.
Mm.
right? Because her husband died, so they did a séance for the husband, and they don't really go into detail of what happened, but they said something weird was happening. Like I think my aunt lost control of herself at some point in the séance,
Mhm.
and then you know, they they talk about it, but they don't really talk about it. They kind of like graze over it,
Yeah.
and years later, I would say three firstborns
Mhm.
it's like the way my cousins died and my sister died, it was kind of weird because one of my oldest cousins, Gerald, he died first,
Mhm.
and it's my aunt Judy's child, and my aunt Judy, I forgot how the order is in that family, but it's like a weird, it's like a synchronized order. So
Mhm.
my aunt Judy, her son died first, and then
Mhm.
my mom, now these are all firstborns. Now,
Yeah.
and then my mother, her first daughter died,
Mhm.
and then the last child, my aunt Lorraine, her first child died.
Mhm.
Mm.
Like the order
Like in
was
that
just
order, yeah. Like in that
it
order.
was kind of weird, and
Mhm.
that those events just threw our family like for a loop, like out of whack. It threw us all out of whack, and
Mhm.
Mm.
So, I just thought that was kind of weird. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always been interested in these teachings.
Mhm.
I just always bumped into the wrong person with this stuff.
Yo, there are a lot of weirdos. Yo, it's not only
Yeah.
a lot of weirdos in in these ciphers, man. Some of them have ulterior agendas. Like
Yeah,
they either trying to, I don't want to.
they do the
They doing some Diddy stuff, and you be like, yo, bro, I didn't. Yo, you understand? It's not that,
Yeah.
or they charlatans trying to steal money,
yeah,
or
That's true.
they hopping from house to house. You be like, but I thought you
Yeah.
was with this person last week, then yeah, you're over here now.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of
I
them,
think.
as Eric said, it's not to cut you off, brother Eric.
No, it's okay, brother.
You got to vet them because I've seen a lot of people with mental issues, mental illness in these cultures, in these
Hmm.
practices.
Yeah. And you
You
got to
already know,
remember,
Ron. Bro, I
so
met
you
now
got to,
how do you get the right person,
yeah, Eric.
and that's, it's trial and error a lot of times, because you may think someone is put together, and then all of a sudden they come to your house and they create mayhem, and
Oh,
that's when you got to cut those people off. You got to cut them off because they can be super toxic, right? I think, again, like, this whole thing about, look, no one's an angel here, right? No one has, the magic bullet, and unfortunately, you run into people that are caught up in, especially, and I'm gonna talk about New York, since we're in this New York perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
um New York can get you caught up easily. The hustle, right? The money. The
mm-hmm,
hustle is real. Also, poverty is real, right? The necessity of wanting to feel better is real. So when you get people that prey off of that, that's what you got to watch. When you got to watch them people, oh, well, I did you a consult, but now this job is going to run you like $10,000. Like,
Yo,
whoa, who got $10,000 in the projects? But you'll see people running for it because they are laying their faith in people. And
yeah,
this is where you got to kind of vet. I hear a lot of people always talking about that, always, look, I lived in Brooklyn, I lived in the hood, I lived in the hood. I lived in Bushwick for a long time. I got married. I was across the street from Central Avenue, the project, San Juan Funeral Home,
I know what that
Knickerbocker,
is.
the 83rd precinct. I grew up there. I grew up there. And I always try to keep a good job, a good head on over my shoulders. I worked for CBS for 20 years. I retired from Channel 2. You
mm,
know, and when I moved from California, when I moved to California in 2008, you know, and you go to those neighborhoods now, they might look nice, they got nice makeovers, they're still the same. They're still the same. People are still a necessity. People are still
Mm-hmm.
looking for a way out.
mm-hmm,
And if you could help someone, then you help them. But it's unfortunate that people prey off of each other because it's easy to victimize someone that's already been victimized.
That's
yeah.
a fact. That's terrible.
You know.
Being that you say you grew up in Brooklyn, right? Did you
Mhm.
ever cross paths with those Nuwapian people in Bushwick, the
I knew
Egyptian?
I knew Dr. Malachi York personally.
Get out of
Oh
here!
wow.
Get
I knew
out of
Dr. Malachi York personally. I didn't know his family members. I have couple of friends that I know that are his nieces and uncles, things like that. But
here!
Dr. Malachi York used to come to our home in Bushwick to come
What?
get readings. Yeah, to come get readings. And he knew my uncle. My uncle was his name was Cecilio Cruz, God rest his soul. He used to sing doo-wop. So, he was part of that doo-wop scene, and they had a group called the Brooklyn Connection. And Dr. Malachi York had his group, and they used to sing. So Dr. Malachi York has an album out there. I think it's called Dreaming or something like that. Where he's all jazzed up and stuff. The curls and everything like
That's
that.
crazy.
And And he was always into spirituality, so he ran around the spiritual scene. And then he
Mhm.
took it and he created what's called the Ansaru, right? So the
Mhm.
Ansaru were off of DeKalb Avenue in Bushwick. But I'm going to tell you something. You know, yes, he was off the rocker. I'm not condoning anything that he did.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you something. In the 80s, when you used to walk around them neighborhoods, you were safe
I heard that. I
because
keep hearing that. I keep
because
hearing
they
that.
had a large community of brothers who were trained, who were trained in arts and martial arts, and they would stand the corners and watch over the people.
Hmm.
So nobody would get robbed, nobody would get hurt. So if you walked from Myrtle Avenue and Bushwick, right there where the KFC is at, I think they knocked that down now. I don't know if it's still there. But if you
Mhm.
walk from Bushwick Avenue all the way down, just straight down Bushwick, all those little communities of Ansaru, all the way
Yeah,
going up to DeKalb Avenue, you were safe. No one
that's
was gonna put a hand on you. No one was gonna rob you because you had to be crazy to go through that neighborhood because the whole community would have jumped you, you
that's
know?
crazy.
But unfortunately, he allowed his greed. And of course, when you victimize people,
You don't do that.
you victimize people. He took the money, they burned the community down, and he ran to Atlanta and he did his own thing in Atlanta.
The
And
same
then he
thing.
got into and then now he's in federal prison.
Don't touch the kids, man. Let's just leave it at
Yeah,
that. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no.
that's
You know,
crazy. I didn't know he's
I
coming
have
for reading.
grandkids. Yeah, I have grandkids, and man, somebody would do that to my child, I'd choke them. I'd be in
Yeah.
jail, you know?
That's crazy, man. I didn't know he was
You
coming
know?
for readings. That's crazy. Nah, I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
now,
mean, he used
so
to come and talk with my aunt and my family. I was real young, so but I saw him. I saw him like plain as day. I remember one time when he was out of the doo-wop scene, he did a community festival in the mosque, and they
Mm-hmm.
had doo-wop groups come and everything and sing and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he held like a fundraiser and all that.
That's
So
crazy.
it's weird how a person can do good and do bad in a community,
yeah.
That's
you
wild.
know?
So if I wanted to get involved in the Palo religion,
Hmm.
what would be the best thing that you said? Go find someone or
Find a legitimate priest, but through word of mouth, you know,
Mm.
through word of mouth. A person that is not shopping themselves, a person that's not on social media saying, hey, come to me, I'll give you a reading. Hey, come to me, I'll do this. Any works, because that's a red flag. That means somewhere along the line they're living off the religion.
Hustling. Yeah.
They're hustling, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, and again, it's just like with anyone else. There's people that work hard. If you have a person who's hardworking, who's got their stuff in order, and they have family, and they're just doing good. You know what I mean? Forget about rumors. People are always going to talk and say, "Oh, that person's messed up. Oh, that person touched this one or that one." You
Mm-hmm.
have to see with your own eyes, because if a person opens their door and they allow you in the table of their house, that
Mm-hmm.
means you have access to them.
Hmm.
Exactly.
That's how you get to meet people, not through word of mouth, well, gossip, because people gossip about everybody, and
Talk
then they
about
sit in the same tables and
it.
they
Yeah.
eat and they hook it up with people. You know what? I'd rather eat with an enemy and tell me, yo, you a motherfucker, you a mother effer. Okay, cool. That's cool. I can respect that. I can't respect two-faced people.
Hmm.
That's real.
You know?
That's as real as it gets. Now you see
Yeah.
run out there. I'm like, yo, this elder is real, man.
You
Real, like
know?
solid. Like I was first put on to Eric during the pandemic. I was going, online just searching through stuff, and he was talking about Palo with somebody, and he's like correcting the person, but not being like belligerent, like basically going like through their scriptures and their doctrine. Like, you're not doing that according to this, so you need to go sit down in your chamber and go sit down with your elders and correct yourself. And it was just
Yeah.
funny, but I love how he was dismissing him in an
Yeah. I mean,
amicable
because
manner.
you know what, Mike? You don't have to be aggressive.
Mm-mm.
You know, a person, we can have discussions like this, right? And you might not agree. Ron is a skeptic. He's saying this dude is crazy. He's seeing spirits. He's probably high on something, and that's okay. You formulate opinions based off of your understanding, but it's not okay to be disagreeable and be rude. That's not okay. Because at that point now you bring out the ghetto in a person. Now, okay, I might be 53, but I still got hands. And I came from that school of thought. I could get a beating, but I could give one too. And it's just as real as it gets. So you have a lot of these young people that come on here, and as soon as you don't agree with what their doctrine is, right away they want to talk about you. Right away they want to create gossip. Right away they want to challenge you. No,
a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, it's just at this point of our life, we should be helping each other, not hindering each other.
That's for sure.
That's a fact for real. Nah, I appreciate that, man. For real.
Yeah.
That's real stuff.